going? What are you drinking tonight? Let's keep them flowing. Where do you come from? Where are you going? What are you feeling tonight? And what are you showing? Where do you come from? 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 Where are you going? What are you drinking tonight? Let's keep them flowing.
Hey everybody, welcome to the download. Today is a bit of a special episode. We are going to get right into it and talk about what's going on with this new Nvidia graphics card. They just released the 5000 series, so I'm joined as always by all the panelist experts in Cyborg City, and we are going to get into it. By the way, if you're new to the series, be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Join the Discord in the comments below, because we're always doing awesome stuff in here. So, without further delay, let's get into this new RTX 5000 series. And essentially, I'm going to break it down into a couple categories, and we are going to start off with this brand new architecture. So we're moving away from what I believe the ADA architecture into this new Blackwell, hopefully I said it properly there, Blackwell architecture. Essentially, we're moving away from creating this power locally and creating it using artificial intelligence. And I assume we're drawing out of this Blackwell. But I'm going to jump to people who are smarter than I am to start discussing what we think about the new architecture switch. Is this, to my understanding, the first of its generation using Blackwell architecture? Do you think that ADA has come as far as it can go? What are your thoughts on the switch to architecture? So we'll start over and give Jem an opportunity and move down the line here.
So from the research that I've done, apparently Blackwell architecture is just an enhanced version of ADA. Like, it's still the same architecture, just renamed, rebranded, and just enhanced. Uses less power, more efficient, and gives more power. Basically, it's just improvement all around. I don't think there's much to say about it.
No worries, no worries. But basically, do we want to jump into Houston? Do you want to talk a little bit about the switch to the Blackwell architecture?
No, I really don't have much to say on it. You know, Jim pretty much hit for the most part on it, and I'm sure he's done probably a little more research than I have.
SPG, any thoughts on the architecture before we jump to the memory?
Yeah, Gem basically nailed it. It is basically the same. The only thing that's different is the updated ray tracing cores and the updated cores for the AI workloads. So there's really not a whole lot to say about the architecture, to be frank.
No
Dude,
worries.
92 billion transistors.
Is it 92 billion? I thought it was 61 trillion or something like that.
The RTX 5090, based on Nvidia's new Blackwell architecture, is a gigantic chip with
Well,
92
listen,
billion
he's-
transistors.
Yeah,
in it.
He's
still,
breaking-
it's quite a lot.
Rubix, you're breaking this down into segments. So what are you actually referring to right at this second?
The essential, the architecture, the switch from ADA to Blackwell. If there's any positives or negatives, we can draw from that aspect.
I guess, I mean, the positive, you're getting double the GPU cores and double the RAM and nearly double the memory bandwidth. Blackwell architecture.
Well, there we have it. So in that instance, I would say they're making a massive upgrade, leaving ADA and going to Blackwell. But yeah, let's jump into the next one, which would be the memory. And I want somebody to jump up here who can explain to me that essentially we're moving to GDDR7 memory, which is more faster and efficient than GDDR6 memory. And so what does all of that mean? Are they able to essentially process way more information now, moving to this next generation? Is that essentially what's happening?
I can answer that.
Go for it.
So GDDR7 is the new graphics memory that's been moving on. What's great about it compared to normal RAM is that they're compatible with older motherboards, so you don't necessarily need to go out and buy a new motherboard to support this new memory set. But you will very likely need to update the BIOS, and that's going to be up to the motherboard manufacturer. So when the day comes, look at your BIOS, look at your motherboard website and check for your model and look for the BIOS update that will support the DDR7 support for graphics card. If you don't have that, then forget about all this new graphic card. You're probably going to need a new motherboard. It all comes down to your manufacturer.
Yeah.
Most of the time, like in most cases, manufacturers have been great. They've always been updating their BIOS to support the latest memories. So, you gotta have like a real piece of shit manufacturer or a really old motherboard to not have this support. But it's about this, the comparisons between GDDR7 and GDDR6 is that you're getting almost double the data rate speeds from up to 24 gigs to 40 gigs. So that's almost double the data transfer rate. And also it uses lower voltage and power consumption. So that means it's going to be more power efficient to run on GDDR7 with extra pins required. That's going to be used part of the motherboard. But if anyone else has more comparisons, go ahead.
All right. Well, I think that covers everything we need to know about GDR7. So thanks for that informational rant there. I appreciate it. But what about DLSS 4? So this is the big and the latest version. What they're saying is only available on the 5000 series, and what I understand to be as AI upscaling. You're only going to have to generate, a small frame of 1080p, and that is going to generate all the way up to 4K and give you a fluid experience with stable frame rate. Now, is DLSS worth this upgrade, this switch? What are you getting with DLSS 4? Is it really so powerful that it needs to be isolated to the 5000 series, or could this possibly just be an upgrade that comes to the 4000? what does the panel feel about DLSS 4? Anyone want to jump into this one?
Yeah, so go
Okay.
ahead, go ahead.
I mean, what I've been reading is it's kind of been misleading. The CEO Jensen claims that the 549 RTX 5070 it's supposed to perform like the 1599 RTX 4090. But I've been reading that it's been misleading. Some of it's over exaggerated. That's what I've been reading.
Yeah, because basically they use the same thing. So the 5000, the 5070 is using the same amount of power, or is as powerful as 4090 because they use the power of AI to basically generate a lot of the graphics. And so that's why he's like comparing and saying like it's the same level because the chip is smaller. That's why he's able to keep the price lower, but is as powerful because of the AI upscaling, almost like the AI doing all the work in the background, generating all the graphics. So.
Yeah, instead of just generating one extra frame in between, it'll generate up to 3 frames in between. With the AI generation. So it's not like brute powerful as strong, but visually it is. So yeah, it's misleading on the way you interpret it.
Yeah, because it's like I will compare it to so like hardware wise they kept the same thing, but they improved the I want to say the programming, but because it's an AI, like it's just the infrastructure inside the graphics card, right? So it's similar to when Google came out with their Pixel. I tried to remember which one. I think it was the Pixel 6 or Pixel 5. They were like, yeah, your camera hardware is like very basic, but they added that feature where like the component inside the program is upscaling your picture, making it look better, and they were comparing it against a Samsung that had the hardware to do the same thing, but like the Pixel phone was cheaper because they didn't use that biggest hardware. So technically, at the end of the day, they went cheaper on the hardware side because they can use the AI to upscale all the information going through the data, right?
Well,
Right.
one of the biggest deals between the 4070 and the 5070, where it gets some of its power jump, is on the CUDA core side. You know, they did bump the CUDA cores up.
Well, everything they showed as in graphs and comparatively speaking was misleading. And the reason it was misleading is because it takes DLSS 4 multi-gen into consideration, and all they're looking at is frames per second. So they can look at a game that's getting 30 frames and now has 230 and go look at that performance jump. But it's actually not a performance jump. It's good, it's cool, but there's not like with the 50 series, the 4090 compared to the 5090, all that's lacking is the multi-frame. And they are able to boost those massive frame rates with that system. I think it's going to be really cool. It's going to revolutionize low frame rate is probably going to be a thing of the past if they keep this up. But wow.
Because I have a feeling in the future they could just like, oh yeah, we upgraded the AI, but you can use the same graphic card. So like Rudig was saying, is the Theory 4000 compatible with it? I don't think so, because they don't have that AI boost in it. But maybe you can buy the AI box attached to your PC and do all the upscaling. You know what I mean?
Right. But when you're talking about the 5070 and to say that, oh, it's as powerful as a 4090, it's not as powerful in rasterization or raw horsepower or speed. It's only, if you're only counting frames, well, it gets twice as many frames, but you're generating them all. So
Yeah, that's just it.
Well,
It's hardware based. That's why they like try to make it as cheap as possible, as affordable. That's why they're like, well, we don't need to make it hardware powerful. Like, we don't need to change the engine and make it more powerful. We just need to add that AI chip that does all the work. And that's basically just changing the computer on the car.
But then we
Me-
have the issue of higher power consumption. But I don't want to interrupt you, Maker. Go for it. What do you-
I think the problem right now is we're only getting initial impressions of it. So like we don't have the benchmarks. We don't have like the tests people run. And I think that's when we're really gonna find out how effective or how it is once we start seeing those impressions.
Yeah, definitely. We just I'm pretty sure some people out there is gonna get like a copy of the 5000 series RTX graphic or the graphic card, so they can then like benchmark it. And I think in the next couple months we're gonna start seeing like the result of those benchmark and the comparison. Really, I want to see the comparison between the 4090 versus the 5070 like he was mentioning, and is it like giving the same result? Because at the end of the day, is that it's not like, oh yeah, the 5070 is less powerful than the 4090, but the end result it might be the same, right?
Yeah,
Alright,
if
I
the
wanna-
workaround works, use it.
I want to address Crow's question here in the audience. He's got a good question here. So, if you have a 4000 series, stick with that. But if you are an older series, it makes sense to upgrade to the 5000 series? Question mark. Am I summarizing that correctly?
I
That
think that's right.
I'll take that on. That makes
Yeah,
sense
go
to
for
me personally. Now, I believe Maker's got a 30 series card. It would be a perfect upgrade for him. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I have a-
60 also.
Can I add one thing? Even though, guys, we haven't really seen the benchmarks and all that, I'm just going off the charts that they're giving us. I mean, the RTX 4090, they said the boost clock speed is 2,520 megahertz to the RTX 5090, 2,410 megahertz. So,
Yeah,
I don't.
like Maker said, it's hard to wrap your mind around some of it because some of the performance is going to be gained from the GDDR7. You're going to have to actually benchmark these things to actually get the exact numbers. But from CES, somebody had, say, Black Myth Wukong playing on a 5090, and they were getting around 30 frames per second, 4K maxed out, full ray tracing, everything with no DLSS. And then they turned DLSS on and was getting like 230.
Yeah, and it has
So-
to do with all the feature you get with like the 5000 series, right?
Yeah,
And
but
that's
when
the
but
thing,
when
it's a
Nvidia right
package.
now, when Nvidia right now is talking about performance gains, I think they're only talking or mainly talking about FPS. I don't think they're actually talking performance.
Yeah.
When
In
they're giving
terms of-
those numbers.
Yeah, in terms of raw power on the sheet, again needs to be benchmarked. But on the sheet, we're talking about 20% raw power increase, like at max,
Correct.
like up to, like it's not a significant upgrade from a 4000 to 5000 series.
Gotcha.
When you want to buy a 5000 series, what you're buying is a feature, the multi-frame gen,
Yeah.
which is really overpowered. It's great, amazing,
Yep.
whatever.
It's a package, right?
Yeah, that's what you're really buying. And what sucks is that this is just a software restriction. Like, if Nvidia really wanted to, they could easily put this on a 2000 gen
But
series.
then
card.
why buy the new stuff? you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't need a 5000 series card.
So besides the
the-
multi-gen, sorry Jim,
In-
just for a second. Besides the frame generation, you've got 4th generation ray tracing cores, which is a little updated, and you've got that 5th generation tensor cores. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, that's the only thing you're buying. You're pretty much buying the upgrade for multi-frame gens features. Every single generation has one unique feature that they always software locked and restrict.
Because I'm pretty sure they're not
on the
gonna
40
want.
series, they gave you frame gen, correct? That didn't go back to the 30 series. Am I?
Yeah, the 4000 series has frame gen.
Yep,
And then the
multi.
3000 series got reconstruction. And then the 2000 series literally got DLSS upscaling. Which, fun fact, they eventually brought that to the 1000 series graphics cards, which doesn't even have any ray tracing cores, and it still works.
Well, with that DLSS
Magic.
4, if it utilizes it, like every game can be 4K 200 frames. Like almost.
Yeah. This is the best part of AMD where they don't software restrict. They even let Nvidia cards use their features, like with FSR. Like you can use FrameGen on a 3000 or 2000 card using FSR, AMD's tech.
The only real restriction on going to the older series cards with the frame generation, it's basically restricted by the AI on. That's really the main throttle back for them. Not saying they can't do them. That's just the performance throttle for it.
Yeah. And then I think from a business standpoint, they will not give the feature that the 5000 series has, like all the bonus on the older series, just because it's like part of the package. You get the new graphic cards, but you get all those features. Yes, you're basically buying a 4000 series, but we kind of like upgraded it with like all those features, and that's how I feel it is.
Yeah,
Maybe like people on Geforce now is gonna see the difference, because I know there's a feature to AI upscale, but that's their own server. They're gonna do what they want with their own server, right?
Right.
Yeah, my point is these last 2-3 generations on Nvidia, it's literally never been about buying raw power. It's always been about buying the unique AI features.
Yeah.
That's what you should be looking at from now on. Just forget about raw power.
No,
Yeah, and you
that's
can
the reason
see.
why I say on cores. It's the AI cores for it. That's the major restriction.
Here's a question I have. Do you think they will eventually just come out with a GPU and then you pay for a subscription for these features and it'll just be, the 6000 series is just AI cores and you have to now pay for a subscription to GeForce Now to be able to have
Sadly,
access to these features?
You have such
yeah.
a PlayStation fucking brain set.
Yeah.
Break out of the cage.
I am going to ignore that fucking question.
No, I know. I
What?
totally can see that. I totally can see that. Every company is going with that subscription feature. Like you look at vehicle, they even talk about vehicle, but you look at vehicle, they want to put AI feature on the vehicle. It's probably going to be a subscription because you're using something outside the vehicle because of their infrastructure about training the AI and doing all those pieces before it get released to the market. They're going to be like, we did all this work, you're going to pay a subscription. I totally can see that eventually your box, your PC, you're gonna have to pay a subscription to run it because a lot of the features gonna be at their own server, if that makes sense. Most of the game you always have to be connected on internet. Why? Because they can provide those features. For how many years some of you have been paying a subscription to play a MMORPG. It's like a way for a company to maintain a certain business, maintain cash flow, basically. And it's sad to see, but I can totally see that.
I definitely lost Gem on that question, but this is how I feel they're going. Now I wanted to
I wish Sony will lock PSSR behind a PS Plus membership. I really hope that.
You know what? They're talking about locking haptics behind a.
That would be awesome,
my
comrade. That would be
God.
awesome, comrade.
No, that'd be
jeez.
terrible.
You know
I
what?
wanna-
If they do that, people will make videos defending it and saying, by the way, if you don't subscribe, your battery life when you control it lasts longer because it doesn't vibrate anymore.
Oh,
It's a
my
win-win.
God.
You either like the haptics or you get battery
That
life.
is
Look at
so
that.
If
funny.
Sony is actually doing us a favor, guys.
Yeah.
Oh,
Giving us
fuck's
options.
sake.
I
Or soon,
wanted-
if you want to have a longer battery life, you're gonna have to add the subscription too.
I wanted to ask about the power consumption. Now, I'm a little bit confused on this one. What is the AI doing? Is the AI doing something else? Because we are hearing the new cards are going to have a higher power consumption than the RTX 4000, which leaves me with a question mark. Because in my mind, they're taking away brute force and they're replacing it with voodoo magic. Which is
that's brute
AI,
forcing.
That's what it is.
They found a
This AI
workaround.
this AI network that you're essentially infrastructure, as Nats was putting it, that they're putting into it. But that AI infrastructure is now consuming more energy than brute force.
Yeah, because
Core
there's more
features.
tensor cores.
Mhm.
Those cores are transformer-based neural networks. That's how it's being used. I can't tell you what a neural network is, but that's what it's supposed to be doing. It's the same type of stuff that powers AI models like ChatGPT, and it's for better temporal stability, whatever that means. Reduce ghosting, I know what that is, and higher quality upscaled images. But it's just like path tracing and stuff like that. Your card is still drawing the power to the ray tracing cores.
What is
now it's
digital?
got tensor cores. Now it's got a bunch of those tensor cores to feed.
What is the digital human technology? What is that about?
We'll jump to that one next.
Some of this could be some of this reads like blast processing from Sega Genesis. Okay.
The power processing draw, the big jump is really only from the 4090 to 5090, but on your 5080 from 4080, you're really only talking, like 40 watts. So it's not a massive power change on the draw. Unless you're talking, the 4090 to 5090, then it's a pretty substantial drop. The rest of them, for the most part, it's only maybe about 30 more watts. So it's not really that much bigger of a power draw, but that's also to be able to run that AI.
Right. So AI consumes more than local hardware in terms of power draw.
And it's up to like let's say you're buying a graphics card at 300 TW.
It's not always running at 300 watts.
Yeah, it's not always 300. If you're doing nothing on your PC, I bet it's like 30 or 20.
And the
and
main
also
thing,
your base clock and your boost clock, all that fluctuates as well. Because if it's not drawing much power, it doesn't need much. So it does go into like saver mode, sort of.
I want to give a real life example about power consumption that I had about 1 or 2 months ago. I upgraded to a 4000 series, and when I played the finals, I had DLSS off, and my usage was at 60%, which was already great. I was already maxed out, saying 60% usage. That's fucking awesome. But when I turned on DLSS with FrameGen, my usage went down to 20%. So it actually used way less power because I turned on the AI. And I think that's because the game is now running at way lower resolution and stuff. Like the raw requirement for the game has been significantly lowered, and the AI part has increased, but the AI part more than makes up the raw performance that the game needs.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to do heading forward into the future. I think that's the exact same thing that the consoles are going to have to adopt, which you're starting to see with PSSR, comrade. I really do. I mean, it's like I said, they duct taped a bionic crutch onto their shit. But hey, like I said, man, getting 300 frames would be absolutely amazing. Like most titles, even with the 4090, you can't lock it at 4K 120. You can get 4K 109, 4K 140 here and there, but like there's dips and drops and stuff. But if you're at 230 frames and it drops 30 frames, you ain't gonna give a shit. It's gonna be very pleasing to the eye. And for them to be able to get that type of performance even out of a laptop, like their mobile chips, that's gonna be incredible.
And that's the main thing. Nvidia is investing so much about their AI.
Oh, Skynet's coming.
That's exactly. He was like asking during the show if you have an idea how to call our AI. I was like, Skynet, come on.
Yeah, dude, they're making like you see the graphics, the GPU die that they got. and the way it's built onto the card, almost the exact same die they're using for robotics. And then not only that, they have it attached to all this, the Omniverse, which puts it through rigorous testing. You can put on goggles and control a robot, and it's actually not, it's monitoring you and your movement so that it's learning. Like, they are literally creating Skynet. Like, won't be too long.
I
If
made the
Nvidia will be
Freudian
It's gonna
driving
come
cars.
on soon too, because like AI is gonna be generating the entire graphics at some point. There's gonna be a less and less hardware, more AI involved in it. So who knows how this turn out.
Going back to the core part of it, you know, we all are running off on AI. Another deal with the power consumption is how efficient is your system? You know, are you running, you know, a 10-year-old board, you know, 10-year-old processor and all of that? If your system's also more optimized, not saying, oh, go out by the latest, greatest, you know, technically you're going to use a little less power to be able to perform at these higher deals because everything's optimized. It's the same way of looking at a car engine. You know, how much horsepower can you get out of a modern engine versus an engine from, you know, the 80s and 70s on different ways. You know, once they put electronics on cars, now it's like, oh, my car's got 300 horsepower, no problem. You know, you go in a computer, tweak it. Hey, look, I got 400 horsepower. Whereas back in the day, it was like, I got to go buy this carburetor. You know, I got to change the jets out in it. You know, I got to change the fuel pump in it. Now you can just tweak it. And so that's where the more efficient something is, the less power it uses.
Maybe the answer all this, even though you have an old PC, might be to get that Nvidia DGX cloud box, that workstation that can connect to any computer, and it's your own like AI module for your entire house. And maybe that AI is gonna be look at your PC specs and like, okay, I can work around with that and upscale a bunch of stuff. Because it's working externally from your PC. And like he mentioned, he's like, you can use that as your PC too. So it's like, what the hell? How things gonna turn out? I'm more excited for that little box because it can do way more. But like,
you also
you're
got
still like selling to the gamer
for that little
consumption.
box. I've seen enough movies where smart houses try and kill the people in it. So
I think
like,
so we all know that Nvidia worked very close with Cyberpunk in their release. And why do you think they called it Blackwell? I made the Freudian slip just before the show, and SPG had to correct me. I called it Black Wall, right? And that was their whole AI infrastructure in the game that eventually went astray. No spoilers.
Something we got to take into consideration as well is like what Jem was saying, is that it's kind of a gimmick is what you're buying with the new generation. You know, you're getting the multi-frame gen. With the 40 series, it was the single frame gen. Well, these things don't always work perfectly when they're first released anyway. Matter of fact, when Indiana Jones just come out and they had the path tracing and everything, I cranked all that up and turned on frame gen. Well, it wasn't Nvidia's fault, but there was a glitch that would cause hitching if you had the frame gen turned on. So I had to turn that off. And Jem will slap me for this anyway, but with my 4090, I don't use DLSS. I don't like frame gen. I will turn reflex on once in a while, but I don't really use those gimmicks. So other than wanting 300 frames, there's really no reason to jump for me. For somebody like we were saying earlier with Crow's question, for like Maker, it would make perfect sense to make a leap. And if you're gonna jump hard, man. Get that 5090. But there's good things there.
I'm making the jump from the 4070 to the 4080. You know, and it's more along the lines of I want to do it.
Well, let's talk about it.
That I need to.
Let's talk about it in this next area where we get into the models here, because interesting enough, they launched 4 models and one of the prices was extremely low. It's got me thinking, hey, I could easily jump into a PC build if the graphics card is going to be $549 and have the power of a 4000 series. So what kind of demographic are they going after here? what are the key differences you guys see between these models? Maker, you're obviously in the market for one, so why don't we start with yourself and your decision process and how you came to decide what you want?
For me, I took a look at it. My PC is about 6 years old, minus the graphics card, which I did get the 3080 Ti when it came out. Um, so I replaced. I had a 2080 Ti prior. So everything else is like from 2019, and so I'm looking to usually about 6 to 7 years after I make a PC, I'll want to make another one, and I think it's about that time, to make that jump. And 5090 seems appropriate, but I do want to wait and kind of see. I do like the 5080 is looking good just because of the price point of it being less than what the 3080 Ti was, and less than the 4080 on release. So that's pretty significant that it's cheaper than both of those.
Well, Rudigs, if you're looking at frame rate, the 5060 is going to stomp mud holes in the PS5 Pro. My bro.
My deal, I thought about myself going with the 5090, depending on the price points, which it sits in the hard cap where I was for what the 5080 was going to be. But it's a waste for me to get that card because I'm not going to utilize everything out of it. So that's my reasoning for not jumping all the way to the 5090. If there's,
But
I don't 4K and 8K game. I game on 2K, and people can criticize me for it. I don't care. But to me, that's throwing money away buying something that I'm not even going to come close to utilizing all the power of it. I don't develop stuff, so it's wasted power. It's, like buying the Samsung Note when you can get away with just fine with the Galaxy, and you don't even use 60% of the features on the phone because there's no reason to.
Well, what I'm trying to get out of the panel here, and hopefully educate me here, but what is the major difference here for me going in at the 5060 if it's the same power as the 4000 series as somebody like Maker jumping for the highest tier, which is the 5090? Like, what's really the differentiators here?
You're confusing power for performance. When we mention performance, we're talking FPS. That there is a difference. Like the metric that they're using, or that Nvidia went out on stage and used, was FPS. I am positive of that. That is what they went on by their metrics.
If you read the little fine print below, it straight up shows that the other ones are not using their frame gen, and that their new scores are using the frame gen.
Yeah. So I guess, Jem, what do you think that? I think this extends the life of GPUs beyond their vision right now. Like if you bought a 5090 and you could do the frame gen and it works perfect. Let's say there's no issue with DLSS 4. Like that card is going to be good for how long? Like for frame rate. Yeah. Oh yeah.
The 4000 series are great with normal frame gen as well. I love the frame gen. That's just amazing. It's like god tier.
I mean, they have some stuff already out. Like for one, it's gonna have higher memory bandwidth, almost 1.8 terabytes per second compared to the 4090's 1 terabyte per second. So that's like a 70% jump in memory bandwidth. They've got like more shading units, and so I mean, like I think it's going to be better for ray tracing, probably perform better handling that, as well as more memory for the 5090 compared to the 4090, which I would assume would be better for 4K gaming, and yeah, so like there are like improvements really from the previous ones.
Between the 5070 to the 5080 to the 5090, it's going to be the number of CUDA core that's going to be increasing between them. So you're going to see a difference, right? The boost clock's going to be different from all of them. So it's gonna come down to like a little feature like this, like the memory config, the memory specs can be increasing between like the 5070 up to the 5090. So looking at the 5090, sorry, 5070, the number of gig, it's gonna be 12 gig at the 5070, then the 5080 is gonna be 16 gig, and then the 5090 is gonna be 32 gig. So that's some of the main difference, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that's a pretty big
Yeah,
difference.
Can I
The
jump
main
in?
thing behind
Yeah, go
it
for it.
between picking the series, it definitely depends on what kind of application you're going to be using it for, what's your gaming expectations, and then are you actually developing, high resolution games, or you producing these, or you making them, on how far you need to go. If you're more of a casual gamer, yeah, 5070, if you needed to move to the 50 series, is more than adequate for you. If you can find 40 series that fits, the 4070, 4070 Ti, 4080, whatever. If it fits it, and it's in your price budget, it's worth it. You don't really need to go that off the wall if you're casually gaming, but if you're hard into it, the content creation, developing stuff, the higher tier card you do want to go because of what it offers, without a doubt. But there is no just raw horsepower. It's a lot of the programming and software behind it that makes it appear that you're getting a massive increase. The CUDA cores, yes, there is a decent increase in that. And the AI cores, there's a not monstrous increase, but it's all going towards the AI generation side.
Yeah.
Me, and I'm just being honest. I can't do 2Gs on a. I'm not balling like SPG, but what's in my budget that I've been looking at, the if I was right now, RTX 5080 for the G, or the RTX 5070 Ti for the 749, somewhere in the middle, I could see those two. And right now, I'm kind of leaning towards the 5080.
That's where I'm at on it. If that price sticks and I can
Because
get
I'm
one for inflation, that's where I'm at with it.
And Houston hit it right on the button, because I'm more of a casual gamer, and I'm not gonna, I'm not really into hardcore graphic wise, but I did buy a computer that I can upgrade, and I think that's something that fair in the price range and what it does, between those two cards.
Yeah, like let's say, you've been gaming on just a plain 3060, or, even going back to like a 2060, 2070 or something. The 5070, that is a real good upgrade, a solid upgrade at what I believe to be a fair price.
That's assuming that you can even get your hands on any of these cards. Let's keep that in reference as well.
I'm gonna attempt.
These cards are being released on January 30th.
You know what, SPG? I remember when the 4090 came out, and we were talking about that, like, for the 4090s and stuff now. And now that I don't like right off the back, like day one, I don't plan on it. I'm gonna wait and see how it does with games and see what everybody else is talking about it. But right now, I could go into Best Buy and they got nothing but 4090s all over on the shelves now, like from all different brands and companies and stuff. So I know I'm gonna get my hands on one in the future. But you're definitely right. Like day one, oh hell no.
Yeah, because it might be a paper launch. And what I mean by that is they might have 10,000 units between the 4090 and the 4080, because those are the two that are being released, or sorry, 5090 and 5080. Those are the cards that are being released on January 30th. If there's 10,000 units shipped across the country, if you're not standing in line for one, you're probably not getting one. And if any of the online retailers, all that shit's getting bought up by scalpers right off the bat.
Then you have companies like our studio. We literally ordered 10 5090s today.
Like
Oh wow.
Well,
in my
yeah.
scenario, like looking at it, because I only use my PC mainly for the streaming part because I use a lot of GeForce now to play my games. I for my PC I will need to upgrade the processor first, then the RAM, and then maybe in a year from now I can upgrade the graphic card when it comes on sale because the 6000 series is gonna come out. You know what I mean?
Which
So
Mm.
it's just like for me it's not worth it
DLSS
to upgrade
4.5,
now.
baby.
you also bring up a valid point there, Nat. If
Yeah.
you're running an older gen
Yeah.
processor and you buy this high-end, which I know it's big, but you buy a high-end GPU, you're going to get bottlenecked by your processor, so you're not even really going to see that
Yeah,
massive
because
performance
even
that you get because you're getting bottlenecked by your CPU.
yeah, because
So,
even there, I was like looking at like maybe eventually what I can do is just like just like pitch in like a bunch of money and just rebuild my old PC, just buy a new motherboard. It's gonna be compatible, like like what we were talking about, Houston. Most motherboard now, you come out with it, they compatible with the future version, what's gonna come up. So you're good for at least 2 years with that motherboard, and then you buy all the stuff that's fairly like cheaper because they have newer version coming out, but you know that you in the price range is very low. If that makes sense. So
Yeah,
if you
you
buy
want to get
something that
yourself
just come
compromised.
out, usually it's so expensive, right? So talking about being Canadian, like all this tech coming from the US or across the water, it's quite expensive for us.
Well,
Yeah, I've been
uh,
putting money back in my build
I did.
for the last year. So that's why, I was able to go that overboard and I have to
So,
have very hard caps on what I'm planning on spending on the GPU
Yeah.
because that's what's
so
in my budget for it.
Rudix,
Mhm.
Rudix. One more thing that fascinates me that they didn't discuss in detail, they glossed over it very quickly, was the neural shaders, the neural faces, and the mega geometry that they mentioned.
Yeah.
The neural shaders supposedly dynamically adjust shader effects on the fly for the scene's context and lighting. Um, I don't know, man. Some of it sounds really cool, but it also sounds like blast processing because they didn't really show it to us.
Um,
Go ahead.
oh no, I think there's a reason why you do want to wait to see what the impressions are, what people think of it, and make sure you you look up on it because I realized pretty quickly I had made a mistake way back when I got the GTX 970 graphics card, and I don't know if anyone remembers that one.
Oh yeah.
They designed it so that it had 4 gigs of VRAM and 3.5 were at a higher speed than the zero point 0.5 gigs, and so it was separated. And so whenever you ran at higher resolutions where it utilized more than the 3.5, you would have issues.
Oh
And
wow.
so yeah, I had that and I was burned by it because then I basically had to run everything at like 1080p or lower. Otherwise, any new games at least, I had to run it at the lower resolutions so that I could maintain my frame rate or that way it wasn't running into any issues. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's why it's important to
Now,
to check out.
one of the other things that they're doing is with the VRAM, they're able to to save some VRAM for how they've adjusted the pipeline on how the data transfers. I don't know how they're exactly doing that, but it's supposed to be not massive gains, but gains like regardless. Like you're going to use less VRAM to get the same job done.
yeah, more efficiently use the VRAM. I have a question here. So, let's walk through something. Just say I wanted a PC that was going to run more efficiently than my PlayStation, and I was looking for a cheap option. Would the 5070 base model still work extremely well? Just based on T-flops, based on The fact you'd be able to get 4K 120, well, it says 4K 480, which I think is ridiculous. But is that the kind of low price budget? I mean, if you're just going for gaming and you're not doing any rendering of real world things, it sounds to me like they've made an incredibly cheap option. Why wouldn't you go for the 5070 at $550?
That 5070 is going to annihilate the PlayStation graphics. It's going to annihilate it.
Yeah, you're basically the frames.
You're talking GPU versus APU.
Frames
it's going to devastate it.
Frames aren't with DLSS 4. If everything works the way they say it does, frames aren't an issue anymore. It's only up to your VRAM and how fast your card is on how much you can pump up the actual graphics, textures, all that other stuff. And then how the DLSS would work is how, depending on what card you have, what base resolution it would have to go from might change or whatever, based on the card you're trying to run it on. Like Maker said, we got to wait for a whole bunch of benchmarks to come out to speak definitely on that subject. But with DLSS 4, like I said, it's magic. They only produce 2 out of 6 frames. Like, that's massively skyrockets frames per second. So that's an issue of the past. And you would turn on ray tracing and it would tank your FPS. Well, that's the thing of the past. Technically moving forward. So yeah, I don't know. Give you a definitive answer, I don't know, but I would assume, like Houston was saying, an APU compared to a GPU anyway. It's all dedicated.
I mean,
usually whoop its ass anyway.
You're still gonna get solid 1440p or 4K graphics on certain titles with that card.
Right, like I was discussing with the Nads last night after we played Among Us, if the consoles either or, if they would switch it to where you had a CPU and a dedicated GPU on boards like laptops, you would see a pretty substantial performance jump, especially them putting the VRAM and stuff like that in consoles. Yes, that would make the costs of them go up, but you would see a substantial jump in console power doing it that way versus running an APU.
Well, take your laptop, Rudix, that you've got now that you could play some games on, but you wish you hadn't have bought it, because it says it's a what, a 3050? Is that what it says it is?
3050 Ti.
Yeah, I want my Ti on there.
Titanium.
Yeah, well, so you couldn't play any games on it? You never played games on it?
No, I have played, some really well done and optimized games like Elden Ring, Spider-Man, and Red Dead Redemption 2. However, I try to play something unoptimized like Off the Grid. I get 1 frame per second and my computer blows up.
Okay, well, if you had a 40 series mobile chip in there, you would be able to get from 1, maybe you could get 400. No, I'm just kidding. But maybe 100, maybe 80. I mean, it's producing so many frames, I
have an example for that. When I was down visiting family for Christmas, I took my laptop so that I could dabble on Helldivers a little bit. And with playing it on there, I was struggling to get 50 frames because of just the way the laptops are set up and everything. I plugged it into my nephew's monitor and then I had relatively no problem. I didn't carry the frame rate that I carry at home because there's more VRAM, of course. They're both 4070, but that's where my comparison comes to splitting those two things up, where you run on the APU and utilize some of that dedicated chip versus a dedicated GPU. But there is the cost difference when it comes to that, of course, especially if you do it console-wise.
Well, I guess we're all on edge waiting to see what comes for these benchmarks in the near future.
Well, I did see it. They had a 4K 240 hertz gaming with RTX 5090 with the games. I mean, they had Hogwarts Legacy. It was like a really good performing game with the card. Frostpunk, Cyberpunk, Black Myth, Wukong, Alan Wake 2, Hitman World. I mean, these things look. They hit some pretty good marks according to what they're seeing on their charts.
They
Mhm.
did, but if they didn't
Switch
have
engine.
frame gen, if they didn't have multi-frame gen, how would they be selling all these high refresh rate monitors, man?
Dude,
Serious. They had
this
to.
And
is
now you got 500 refresh rate monitors starting to come up. There's that company that's got that one out and everything, and it's you're not going to see those numbers without frame gen.
right.
The main issue we have nowadays is that they're coming out with new technology so fast that if you bought like something 6 months ago, it's already expire
It's
to
expired
have
by
all
the
the
time
new
you get
fish.
to your car. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
it's like when you buy a
Obsolete.
brand new car, as soon you pull it out of the dealership, you just lost 10 grand on it.
Yeah, that's true. That is
Yeah,
true.
it's like buying diamonds, right? It's basically a scam, guys. Come on, I'm actually a computer engineer, a computer scientist. I just bought an M4 Max, right? And like looking at these 50 series laptops, it's like, oh, I should just sell it already, right?
Hey,
It's like
welcome.
That's good.
We got a special guest here. Thanks for jumping onto the show. Yeah, we're the Download in Cyborg City. Pretty open panel here. We're just discussing the 5000 series. So appreciate you jumping in.
I think
But-
without a doubt, though, the 5070, it for upgrade purposes, from the 30 or 20 series card, I think it is a very good price point for an upgrade. If you want to jump from, a 3070 to a 5090, that's on you. If you got the wallet for it, have at it. I'm not going to criticize you for it or any of that nature. It's what money you have to play with and whether or not you want to do it. But the 5070 is a solid price point for an upgrade, in my opinion.
Yes, the 5070 is the sweet spot for 1440p, and 4K would be 5070 Ti in this case, looking at all the data, right?
Yeah, it's a solid upgrade.
Also, when you're upgrading, don't just blindly buy the best graphics card. Make sure your CPU can support it as well.
Yeah,
I don't think I'll have that problem at this point right
no,
now. We'll
this
see.
stuff is new as last year.
Well,
I
CPU
got
matters.
a 9800 X3D. I don't think I'm going to get bottlenecked too bad anywhere anytime soon.
Well, we have been talking on this subject. Why don't we go through everyone's kind of final thoughts, and feel free to jump board off of anyone's final thoughts. But I want to start with Jem. What were your impressions going into this? Were you excited? And how do you feel now that the big event has concluded?
So I recently upgraded just like 2 months ago during Black Friday. Found the graphic card for great discount. So in a position that I am in, seeing this graphic card, it's like, oh, is this worth the upgrade? I could just sell mine right now and lose a bit of money. It's not that big of a deal. For me, no, it's not worth the upgrade. It's not worth doing that switch. But I am excited for the 60 series eventually, especially if they have those juicy price points again. Because the 50 series is cheaper than the 40 series at launch price, except for the 90, the 5090. But the main line, they're cheaper comparatively. So that kind of makes me excited for the 60 series. And what kind of exclusive feature would that one have? So yeah, I can see myself upgrade to the 60 series. Also, I am excited about this whole news event, not for the 50 series, but for the DLSS 4, which all the RTX cards are going to have. It's the bundle thing. 50 series is exclusively going to have multi-frame gen, but every other DLSS exclusive feature that the previous gens have, they're all going to be upgraded. Just going off the list real quick. With single frame gen, the 40 series has, you're getting increased performance and reduced memory usage. So this time, next month, all my DLSS games have been upgraded, and I didn't even spend any extra money. Then you got like increased detail with super resolution. They even showed a clip with Horizon Zero Dawn with like a backpack being more detailed with the DLSS, upscaling and so on. And another thing that we haven't mentioned about, which is actually really big news that I thought it was my most favorite part of the news, and it's so like under the rug. Basically, in DLSS for video games, how it's always been is that the developers have to manually update DLSS from their end. And we've seen this so many times with like, hey, the new Cyberpunk update's got 3.55 DLSS update, amazing. And then you have the other end where they're like, hey, my favorite game, they're still using DLSS 2. When are you going to upgrade to DLSS latest? That's always been the case. But with DLSS 4 and the Nvidia app, you can now manually select DLSS 4 for every single DLSS supported game. So
Yep, I caught that.
if you go an old game, let's say Red Dead 2. I don't know if Red Dead 2 is even updated, but let's say Red Dead 2 DLSS is 2.0. Next month, I'll be able to force that to DLSS 4, and I'll have more FPS and higher detail. And again, this is all free. I haven't spent any money, and now all my DLSS support games are on the latest version. I think that's bloody awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. You get it for free for now until you have to pay a subscription, and there's only you only get a cap time of 100 hours a month.
Nvidia Plus.
But yeah, no, that is really cool that it is a grade sort of upgrade backwards on your library. So love to see that. Houston, any final thoughts on the 5000 series?
I was really excited to see what they brought to the table for it. I'm a little let down on how much brute power the card is there, but I understand we got to lean on the frame gen. And to touch on what Jim said, they will be releasing at some point a software update for the 40 series for frame gen, but it's not going to get the multi-frame gen. The 30, 20, and so on down won't get the update for the frame gen, but price point wise, I think they did a good job on it, especially if all the rumors are true that they're not going to be producing any more 40 series. That sucks for some people, but why would you pay $50 more for a 4070 when you can get it for, a 5070 for cheaper than what the 4070s currently go for? So that, and the AI stuff, I wish they would have spent more not talking about their AI and more talking about what their steps forward are with the GPUs and all of that. But we get what we get, and all around, I think it was a pretty good showcase.
Thanks for that.
X counted how many times they said AI. It was 202 times.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
And I used AI to count that.
Yeah, exactly.
Maker, any final thoughts on the Nvidia 5000 series card? Are you with it? Yep.
I'm interested to see what the tests will be, like how it performs. Based on that, I'll probably decide on whether or not I'll get it or wait for maybe like the super models. But I am getting to the point where I do want to build a new PC soon, so we'll see.
Wait a second. I was watching the presentation. I didn't see any super-models.
No, those are usually the ones that come out late at a later time.
Yeah.
I'm joking with you. SPG, any final thoughts on the 5000 series?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how DLSS 4 multi-frame pans out. How good it's received or how well it's implemented. If it caused any issues. But it seems like a game changer, man. If it works like they say it does, it's like voodoo. I think that's pretty cool. But for a generational leap, I have a 4090, so there's absolutely no reason for me to stick my toe over to that pond. Like Jem was saying, the 6000 series looks like a good bet just because they'll have well enough time to work with these monitors with the high refresh rates as well. So by the time the 6000 hits, it'll all be settled in maybe for a really cool gaming experience. That's my opinion. But if you're on a 20 series or lower, this could be fantastic, especially at the price points. But let's not get excited for the price points. This is or could be a paper launch. and you know the market dictates what's going to happen. So they're going to be scooped up and you're not getting it at that price anyway. Just hear me now, believe me later.
All right. Definitely watch out and try to talk to your local computer store. Maybe they can secure one for you. Who knows? But Nads,
Yes.
why don't you give some final thoughts on the 5000 series?
I'm quite excited to see the advancement in technology that we have right now with the implementation of AI into the graphics. Like it just showed a direction that Nvidia is heading towards, and they like all invested into AI from the look of it. I personally like looking into it because I have a 3060, but at the same time, I play a lot on Geforce now, so I'm using their server to play games. So I'm not too worried about upgrading now. And like Houston mentioned, or like everybody else mentioned, like if I need to upgrade, if I want to upgrade to 50, 70, let's say, I need to change my motherboard, change my RAM, change everything basically. So right now, it's not a priority for me to change that. And I'm pretty sure my wife is not gonna allow me to spend money on a new computer.
I hear that.
But
I hear that.
but at the moment, I'm very excited about to see the future, how things gonna go, and I'm very happy to see the AI progression, how it's being implemented, and how they have their guardrail for the direction where AI is going to ensure it doesn't overlap. What I'm mostly interested, you see at the end of their presentation, is that little AI box that I can buy and connect to my PC to improve. It's almost like creating our own AI, and that's what I'm more interested into because I would like to see how this can improve my current PC at the moment, right? So maybe that AI is going to boost up some more stuff for just using a bit more power. So who knows, right? So I'm quite.
Absolutely.
I can't wait to see the future. So yeah.
And Root, thanks for joining us. Any closing thoughts on the Nvidia 5000 series you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. I'm actually kind of excited for the neural rendering segment because it's going to reduce the amount of VRAM usage, right? As they were stating. So that seems like a positive aspect of it. My only concern with DLSS4 is latency. They did show some latency numbers, 35 milliseconds, blah, blah, but ideally you want it to be lower than that. But as long as they got that mouse feel there and latency there, frame generation should be good. But you would still need to have a baseline that's reasonable, like 50, 60 frames per second, I'd assume. But they were showing like a baseline of 25 frames, right? So I'm just concerned with their math because I'm a mathematician. So there's definitely some shoddy math there. But the actual non-DLSS performance increase looks like 5 to 25%.
Oh, non-DLSS performance. SPG is after your heart.
That's what I like to see, man. I want raw,
Yeah.
power numbers, man.
Ray, any closing thoughts on the 5000 series? Wrap us up here.
Yeah, I have a 30 something series. I think I got 3060 Ti, 3070, whatever. I'm looking to upgrade. Not right now. Want to see everybody test drive it before me and then make my decisions, but I'm all for innovating and new stuff, especially when it comes to gaming. So let's see and have fun.
I heard that's what happened in California. They were testing the 5090s.
Bro, don't go there. Yeah, it's too soon, man. Too soon. Don't make too fucking soon, dude. Too soon. He'll go.
the air
No,
conditioning.
we hope everyone is safe out there, and we hope California gets the water they deserve to put that out. That's for sure.
They paid for it. They
Hey,
paid for it.
Canada,
Paid for
Canada,
It's probably coming
Canada,
from Canada.
loan us
Yeah.
some water. Canada, loan us some
Hey,
water,
you
because
got an ocean right there to your
The
right
big
there to your left,
ocean.
man.
Just use that water.
All right. Well, I want to say a big shout out to everybody in the audience who came and hung out with us today as we discussed the 5000 series. This was supposed to be a short segment, and it blew into a full download episode. So a lot of fun. Everybody here, big appreciation to all you guys. And Root, thanks for coming in, jumping into the show, and joining. It's the vision for the show, so it's really awesome to have that happen. We are back next week on Thursday at our regular time, and we are going to be going into more gaming and tech news every single week. So until then, be sure to take care, be safe out there, and yeah, everyone, thanks again.
Thanks, Rudy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
somebody
later,
thank me.
later.
Come on, somebody thank us.
RTX 6090, giant fan.
All right, take care, everybody. I'm throwing the
Hey,
credits on.
y'all.
All right.
Grove. 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 Why try to believe in me? Why try do I even need to? I die with the season leaves. I glide with the season breeze. True, my mind so easily spooked. I ride just to be the me who finds hype super decently smooth. Nice type, but as sick as beats. Groove, 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 groove. Wanna cut a pussy in a box up. Gonna get some pussy in a hot tub. Would you be a good